What is up, everybody? My name is Thomas J. Bellezza, and welcome to The Right Mindset. Today, we are going over basically how to, write better subplots. As per what I wrote today, I'm going to go over how to write better subplots that don't take away from your main plot, but are still worth plotting without being subpar in the plot. Say that 5 times real. What is it? Just 5 times. Just say it real fast. In fact, while we're waiting for the intro to go through, just practice that, okay? So, basically, how to write better subplots that don't take away from your main plot, but are still worth plotting without being subpar in the plot. Go. Big, massive thank you to everyone. As always, I'm grateful that you're here. If you are here for the first time or you're returning and you haven't, please subscribe by hitting that bell icon so you don't miss out. And the reason you would do that is because you want to follow along on some of the lessons about your craft. You want to hear about how we analyze and review storytelling, and of course, we do interviews. That's right, we do interviews. That's my hair with fellow writers and authors in the industry, both screenwriting and novel writing, and you name it. You can watch it on the Right Mindset podcast. You can even listen to the Right Mindset. Let's get into it. Did you know today's episode is about writing better subplots? I don't know if you know that. That's why we're going to get into it. But I guess I don't know what's going on with my hair. It feels fine, but you don't see it. There's hair, like there's little strands in my hair because my hair is so long. See this? See this? Oh, stop pulling. That was me. Don't worry. There's no ghosts here. Anyway, we got to recap on the subplots. So subplots, and as always, I pre-write my stuff, I read it, and then I riff on it. Subplots support the main plot, but aren't necessarily restricted to being about the main plot. Very important to understand that. A subplot is there to support the main plot, but is not necessarily restricted by the main plot, meaning it doesn't necessarily have to directly reflect the main plot. It could be its own subplot and have its own elements. It just needs to support the main plot, elevate it, meaning we'll get into some examples of how to really use that. Your subplots should stand on their own, but not just be about finding a ring that you lost last week, while the main plot is about hunting down the monster of the week. Unless, of course, the ring leads to something important for that character later on in the story that adds actual value to the overall story. What am I saying? Well, basically, if you're like, I know we need to fight and destroy this monster, but I also need to find my ring because I lost it. All right. And then they find their ring and are all like, got it. We're good. Keep going. That's a weak subplot. Honestly, subplots are a great tool to break up the monotony of main plots, but you don't want them to be weak and useless just because they're like, wait, before we go fight the monster, I lost my ring. The ring has no emotional value. It's just the character wants the ring. They find the ring and they go, great, I got it. Let's carry on. Nothing really changes about the story or the characters. That is technically a subplot. We have to go kill the monster. Oh my God, I lost my ring. Let's find my ring. That is officially a subplot. It's a terrible subplot, but a subplot nonetheless. So use your subplots for many things, but it also helps break up the monotony. Like I said, for the audience reading, it's just extra stuff that allows us to say, ooh, and that's why you kind of wanted to support and elevate the value of your main plot. Like, you don't want it to be something where you just go off into the middle of nowhere to break out a a lock, a lock expert, and then it turns out they're the only one in the universe that can do it. But for some reason, you can't get that person, so you get a second person who actually ends up being able to do it. So apparently, they're not the only one that can do it. And then they get there, and then they don't actually. It's not helpful in any way. So who cares? But when you see side quests in a game, even though subplots don't have to be side quests, look at the like in a game, the story is like, oh, he's at side quest. It just gives you a moment to breathe. I'm not saying subplots need to be side quests. However, sometimes they end up being side quests, um, especially in adventure stories. You're allowing them to sort of be like, I know we're doing this, but let's take a moment. And The Witcher does this too. The Witcher has like its main season plot, and then you have those little moments like the Monster of the Week, or well, not Monster because Netflix pops it all on one shot. Disney Plus, you should be paying attention because it's annoying doing a week by week. But sponsor me. No. So in The Witcher, there's they're trying to A to B, but then like, he runs into an old friend, or, whatever the case, or, Yennefer. Yennefer is, she has her story, which is a subplot, but some of them, they all kind of converge. So that brings me to what makes a better subplot. Well, honestly, I'm going to read something to you, and I just want you to take a moment. So, a secondary strand of the plot that is a supporting side story for any story or the main plot. Basically, subplots may connect to the main plot in either time and place or in thematic significance. So, this helps make a better subplot. However, a subplot is not another story being told simultaneously, but it is a part of a greater connection to the main narrative of a story. Well, let me finish the thing. So thematically, plot wise, or something about all the plots, sub or otherwise, connect all in one way or another to push the A story forward, even if it doesn't appear that way directly. That's why side quests that don't enhance the main narrative take away from the experience, and at times is confusing. Cough, cough. The Last Jedi. So, what am I trying to say here is that let me give you. Okay. So, Star Wars. I'm sure you've seen Empire Strikes Back. Spoiler alert. Luke is like, I'm gonna go train with Yoda. So that's a side quest, because Han Solo and the princess are going somewhere else to meet up with the other rebellion people. They ultimately get taken. Now, technically, that's like the main storyline, is that they're trying to get back with the rebellion, and yada yada yada. Right? Han and Leia get kidnapped. Well, not that they get kidnapped; they get stuck on Cloud City, and Vader's there, and he's like, "Hey," and then Luke's like, "Oh," and then he's like, "Hey, Yoda, I gotta go." Now, this is the thing. Yoda's the side quest. He's about to leave the Yoda training, okay? And he's going to go save his friend. He's going to try to save his friends. All right? How does it enhance the main plot? Well, the themes are still there. So while Luke is training, he sees his face in Vader's. He fights Vader in the Dagobah, like monster cave, whatever. The dark side cave. Do it. Do it. You will be, right? So I'm a tangent, man. He goes in there and he sees it, and we're understanding the theme. Basically, that's telling the story. Like, if you continue down this path, you'll turn into your father. You can turn into your father. By the way, he doesn't know he's his father, but that's the seed that tells us that, hey, there's a chance they're related. More so, he's trying to learn some skills, and Yoda's like, hey, you're not ready. And he's like, no, it doesn't matter if I'm ready. They're my friends. I got to go save them, So he goes, and obviously we know he loses because Yoda seeded that he's not ready, right? However, the main plot, it has to do with the Vader, Leia, Han, Luke going to save them because they got kidnapped, they got put into a position. But that main subplot is Luke training. And everything that happens in that training montage helps develop that character to really establish the main plot. So, for example, we learn the Dagobah Monster Cave, the Dark Side Cave. He learns a little bit about himself, but he also goes, "Oh my God, I am heading down. I could turn into this." It's all the seeding that's important for the main story, even though it's technically a subplot. So that's one way you could look at subplots, how they enhance the main plot, but they are really doing their own thing. But they don't take away from the main plot, and they aren't completely separated. Um, that's why you don't want it to be another story being told simultaneously. But you do want a connection. You want a greater connection, either through themes or whatever the case may be, character development, plot wise, things like that. And in that situation, Luke going to be trained doesn't necessarily feel like another movie. It still feels a part of the story, adds to the story, branches off from the story, etc. And examples of subplotting. The main plot of the narrative is that the parent of a man's ex-wife passed away. A person you were married to for 15 years and over, all knew for 20. It's about going there to say goodbye to someone you respect and loved and to show support for the family. So, real quick, let me break this down for you. In fact, let me do this. Let me do this. Hold on. Hold your britches, okay? Just hold your britches. Are you holding them? How's your britches? Are your britches good? Here, I'm going to share. I'm going to share a screen, okay? Just hold your britches. All right? It's untitled document. So, all right. Doing this in real time, but let's do this. Beep. Okay. I kind of want to. Can we do this? Let's just do this, okay? So, to reiterate, okay? Main plot, all right? Okay? It's ultimately going to be the parent of a man's ex-wife passed away, right? The parent, so we could say mother-in-law, okay? A man's ex-wife passed away, okay? And what's another beat to that? Well, we want some information. They were married for 15 years and knew another for 20 years, okay? Altogether. That's important because that establishes, oops. We're writers, not editors. Look at all this correct. Okay, thanks. I appreciate it. For another, what is going on? All right. Is this telling me something? It's being annoying. All right. The parent, no, it's just I guess you have to say a parent. A parent. Um, it's about going there. Okay, so the main plot is that the parent, the mother-in-law, passed away. He knew them for a long time, so he's going there to do his respects and be respectful and thankful. And why is he going? Because the main plot suggests that he wants to say his final goodbyes to someone they respected, loved, and wishes to show support for the family. Now that we know what the main plot is, okay, what is the theme of the main plot, really? Uh, what is the theme of the main plot? The theme of the main plot is ultimately that the main plot narrative might also have themes of closure to that part of uh, the protagonist's life, okay, and trying to keep it comfortable and not weird, as the ex remarried and that character protagonist did not. Right. So where am I? Boop, 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 boop. Hey, how's it going? You want to do it like this? Look at that. Maybe like this. Maybe like this. Okay, that's fine. Doesn't really matter. So there you go. There's the main plot and the themes. Now we get it. So how do we add the subplots? Right? What are subplots? Examples of good subplots of plotting. Well, now we get to um, obviously we could go into like the backstory. So the ordinary world, we start the story off with the ordinary world, and that might be that the protagonist is living their single life. They're enjoying a single life. It's just what they do. They have no kids, whatever. But then they got the message that the parent had passed away. This would technically be the inciting incident, right? And then we move forward to the funeral. So there they run into the ex younger sister-in-law, right? Runs into the ex younger sister-in-law. Okay. Now, is that a subplot yet? No, not yet. So we could say she might be in her 30s, right? Because why not? And the main and the protagonist is in their early 40s, which means we actually would be she might be in her late 30s, okay, because she's the younger sister, right? So but what is going on here? Yeah, might be in his early 40s. All right. Turns out they had an affair when the protagonist was still married. Ooh, evil, evil, evil. Okay, so these two were lovers. Um, I don't know why it says all right, so they were lovers. So now we have a history. Okay. By the way, this is a subplot though, because this is something that has nothing to do with him going to say goodbye and get closure and trying to show support, right? This is something that we learned. This is a subplot, okay? Um, oh, by the way, this is what ended the marriage, okay? Because they found out, okay? This is absolutely a subplot. Now, how does this work? How does this add value, right? To the main plots. Well, you got some things going on, okay? This gets to add this adds tension, right? Tension when the ex sees them. Oh, the ex-wife, okay, sees them talking again, and it brings back memories. Okay, memories. Okay, so now, by the way, this is the subplot still. So this is the they had an affair subplot. This is he had a this is what ended the marriage. This has nothing to do with going to say goodbye to the parent, the mother-in-law, and that he wanted to say his whole goal for the whole story point is that I want to go say goodbye to to show my love and respect, right? And then okay, so why hasn't she gotten over it? I mean, there's a million reasons why she shouldn't. Other than the cheating factor, her sister's child is actually the low. Okay, so now here we go. Okay, the younger sister has a child, which is the love child of the ex husband and herself. Okay. Ooh, so this is the subplot. Okay, we find out that he has a child. The child is a subplot, which is attached to the affair, which is attached to the younger sister, which is attached to blah blah blah. Okay. Now we learn that the younger sister never told the protagonist about the child. It happens. Now we have two subplots. We have the affair that we can explore in the narrative and how that ultimately influences the main plot of trying to have closure and say goodbye to that part of his life. And also the child, which makes saying goodbye and having closure a bit more difficult. So now the child cre- the cold. The child creates conflict, right? And disrupts uh, um, the main plot mission, or rather, challenges it. Okay, which is great. Oh wait, there's no S in disrupts, right? That's right. Okay, that's what's great about subplots. Okay, they really. This is probably gonna be that who is okay the child of younger sister has a child who is the love child of her sister's ex-husband and herself. Okay. Period. All right. Whew. Okay. Now, adding these if you take out the affair and the child, the main plot still happens. It does, right? So even if there was no affair and there was no child, okay? Um the main plot still exists. He would get the call that the mother-in-law passed. He would show up. He would say his goodbyes. He'd show his support to the family, and he'd be able to get closure to that and be like, "Hey, uh, you know, I just want to say, that I love your family, and they were always good to me, and I'm glad that I showed up here, and it's been however long, 6 years or 5 years or whatever." Um, and I just want to say goodbye. And that would be the story. Is that an exciting story? Not really. There's not a lot of conflict. It's pretty straightforward, but it is a story. And the subplots help add a little bit of spice to it. And it even though like the subplots have their own arcs, because they have their own beginning, middle, and end. The main plot also has a beginning, middle, and end. But the subplots are conflicting with the main plot. They're like adding value to it, like, so keep in mind that a subplot can be as simple as someone is keeping a secret from the main character, or as destructive as another character dying from being attacked or sick. They don't have to be as deep as this, though they can be. But if you just to give you an idea, that's how we create a subplot. You don't really have to put that much thought into it. You're more than welcome to. Subplots are important, in my opinion, because they help add value to the main plot. For example, I have a story that I'm working on where the main character, as I drink my soda, the main character is ultimately just, he loses his family. I think I've talked about this in another video, but let me just elaborate a little bit. His main goal is to ultimately, he felt he was incapable, even though he was like 9. It's still stuck with him. There's post traumatic stress from it. He watched his family die and the city be destroyed that he grew up in. And his whole thing is like, I need to be capable. I can never be afraid again. He was afraid. Obviously he's 9. He was afraid. He never wanted to be afraid. And his main plot is, I want to be capable, and I want to protect the people that I care about. And in the beginning, his mind is, I want to avenge my parents. Like, that's the main plot in his mind. Obviously he grows and changes over the story, and it's not really about avenging his parents' death. It's about doing something more, right? And that's the main plot, is ultimately having that, I don't want to be fearful, I want to avenge my parents. But the main plot ends with, it's not about avenging my parents, it's about something else, and I don't want to give that away. But and then there's subplots snuck into there. So there you go. It is what it is, right? Isn't that what they say? So final thoughts. um If you feel your subplot might not have enough strength to stand alone, ask yourself these questions, okay? How does this subplot support the story's themes? And if so, does it make the narrative as a whole more interesting? Okay. What does your subplot add in terms of characterization, or does it take away from the main narrative? Because that can happen too. So, for example, using the sister-in-law moment, let's say he goes to say, he wants to say goodbye, and he runs into the sister-in-law, and she says, I have a child, but it's not yours." And then now the story is like focused on the fact that she has a child, but it's not his, and the story is all about this sister, that they did have an affair, but the sister has a kid, but the story is about the kid, the sister and the kid. Like it would just take away from the whole purpose. The inciting incident would be, why do we even have the inciting incident to affect this protagonist, right? So, what does your subplot add in terms of characterization? What does it take away from the main plot? So, think about that, okay? And, obviously, how does the subplot alter the main plot for the better? And if it does or doesn't alter the main plot for the better, what does the subplot convey that couldn't be conveyed in a more condensed way? For example, within one scene, for example, can we put that subplot into one scene and just have that purpose be explored in like a moment or a scene, whatever the case may be. Um, the example I gave you does alter the main plot. He was there to say goodbye, get closure, and leave. But now it's being challenged, and he's like, "Oh, I can't leave. I have a child. I have to." Well, he discovers he has the child, and he meets back up with the sister-in-law. So does he have? So does he end up with closure? Yes, no, maybe he does, and maybe the closure is, wow, you are the love of my life. That's why we ended up in an affair, and we have a child together. I've been living a single life. I have no kids. I'm in my 40s. I want you. If I knew sooner, I would have been here sooner. So let's do it. And their form of closure to the main plot is that he accepts his new life, and either he moves back there or they move there or whatever the case. So it alters the main plot, but it is a subplot. Okay. And by the way, here's some. These moments in the story are great visuals for you to see a strong subplot. So I'm going to give you examples, and you think about them, and then you go watch that movie, and you can see what a subplot does and how it adds value to a story. Okay. I'm going to give 4 examples, and then we're going to call it a day. I hope the example that I hope the real time plotting it out helped. If you want me to do more of that, just let me know, because I'm thinking of doing live videos where I just kind of like in real time develop stories just from scratch. Okay. Anyway, so these moments are great visual examples of subplots within stories that do something important to the main plot. Okay. So super bad. Super bad, the McLovin and the police subplot. Okay, so the police, they stop him. They start making fun of him about the McLovin. You only have one name, like Madonna, whatever. And then they end up taking him to the party, and then they start hanging out. They do all the. So that's a subplot, right? Romeo and Juliet, the old rivalry between their families. So the main plot is obviously Romeo and Juliet fall in love. It's forbidden love. They can't be together. But then there's a secondary aspect, was the old rivalry, which, by the way, the play starts off with is like, do you bite your thumb at me? No, do you bite your thumb at me? And then they fight. And then the prince comes out and goes, there'll be no fight. Well, I'm summarizing. There'll be no fighting. No fighting. And if there is fighting, there'll be hell to pay. And then later on, there is fighting. And there's a death, okay? 2 households, both alike in dignity, in fair Verona, where we lay our scene, from ancient grudge to new mutiny. Okay, and it doesn't matter. All right, Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade, which I really love that movie. It's a great movie. Okay, Elsa Schneider is attracted to power over loyalty, and at the end, she falls in a pit trying to get the Holy Grail, right? And we already have one. You already have a Holy Grail. And Indiana Jones tries to grab for the goblet after she falls, and ultimately chooses to have a relationship with his father instead. So there's it's a subplot, is that she has these motivations and she's just using people, and her goal is to have power, which isn't necessarily have to do with the main plot. It has to do with her arc. But it leaks into a moment of growth for Indiana Jones. So that is technically a really great way to influence the main plot, is that this lesson helps him grow because he's trying to have a relationship with that. And of course, The Princess Bride. Hello, my name is Inigo. Inigo Montoya, you killed my father, prepare to die. This is the plot of a character searching for his father's killer, and yet it entwines with the main plot of the story. It also leads to the moment where he goes, "Have you ever thought of piracy?" So, you know, Wes, Wesley, the Dread Pirate Rabbits is like, "Hey, I want to retire. I want to live with Buttercup." And for me to do that, I need to retire the name. How, would you be interested? Well, after being after chasing, I don't know what to do with myself. I've been seeking revenge for so long. I don't know what to do with myself. And he's like, "Have you ever thought of piracy?" Right. So the story kind of like fills in, and that's how you can tell it's a great subplot. All right. Anyway, in conclusion, I just want you to know the next video in this series will be me having a chance to answer that age old question: how do I write from a point of view? So we'll be answering that by defining and explaining each point of view, of course. And there will obviously be examples. Question, by the way. Is there a subplot in a story, novel, film, or television show that you feel should have been the main plot? Let me and the community know in the comments below. So this question is really saying, did a subplot seem more interesting than the main plot? And if so, what was it? Right? Right? I'm just saying. If you want to know more and learn more about improving your craft, a little insight on the industry, and hearing from fellow authors, please subscribe and hit that bell icon so you don't miss out. That was good. Anyway, keep developing the right mindset. I'll see you next time.